What is up, you amazing people? It is Nima here, and today we're going to talk about a game called Deliver at All Costs. It's a really fun game that I'm excited to get into, but before we do that, I actually wanted to talk about a different game. And of course, I have to ask you guys to please hit that like and subscribe button, it helps the channel grow, all that good stuff. But anyway, this other game I wanted to talk about is a game called RoadCraft. Before I really get into talking about it, I just want to mention a couple things. Number one, just because my feelings on it are this way doesn't mean that it's going to be that way for everyone. And I do wonder if I played it too early, like before there was any patches or before anything was really updated. So maybe others' experiences will be different. But for me, this game was very much a sim type game where it had a really cool story where essentially you were going to like different areas of the world and you were basically helping them protect themselves from different natural disasters and stuff like that, or you were building roads for communities who just didn't have the resources for it. And like I said, this is definitely a sim type game, but there was a little bit of arcadiness to it and a little bit of heart. And it played out like Construction Simulator 2024 and Expedition Had a Baby. The problem with this is, though, is even though the game is incredibly slow paced, which is fine, a lot of those types of sim games are, this almost gave you no direction at times. And there would be moments where I would be delivering something where it needed to go, and then I had no idea how to get the thing off of my truck. Things like that would happen all the time. Not to mention, you actually had to route out different roads that your whole convoy would use, and then you kind of watch them try to go through that path. And if just one of them couldn't make it, then you had to redo the whole thing, even if the other three made it just fine. But if one of the four, it just failed completely. And then you had to go reback, figure out a different path or a better path. Usually it was just to like basically widen up a corner or something. It really pedantic. But the biggest sin that it committed for me was it completely deleted my save. And it was actually funny because I'd fired it up for this sort of last time, almost like trial by fire. I was gonna see, am I just giving up on this game or am I gonna really enjoy it? And I put my heart and soul into this experience. And as soon as I went to the main screen, I couldn't find my continue or the load game or anything. It was all gone, just completely disappeared. But regardless, for a $40 game, I just wanted to warn people about it. Like, it's not where it needs to be. It needs a lot of updates and stuff like that. Definitely some more tutorial support. With all that being said, though, I could see a world where people enjoy this game. I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, on to the main star of the show. Deliver at all costs. Now, this is a really interesting game where you play a down on his luck delivery guy by the name of Winston Green. Now, Winston is an incredibly intelligent individual, but he sort of lacks motivation. Well, one of these days, while he was just trying to sleep all day, he got a note that was telling him he's going to be evicted and he's like 3 months behind on his rent. Decides he's going to have to get a job. And luckily, a delivery service was hiring, and so you get the job. This is where the game really takes off as far as the gameplay, because, well, let's be honest, the majority of this game is just this. You're delivering different packages, but they do it in a very creative, silly way. One of the first ones that you get that is just insane is balloons. Balloons keep going as you're delivering them, and so if you hit anything that will make your truck jump, you'll just go flying like way further than you should. And not to mention, and I know I kind of buried the lead here, everything in this town is destructible. Just driving to work, it's not uncommon to crash through a building, destroy some other cars, take out most of the lamp poles and electricity poles, all that stuff. Just part of the game. And you're not really penalized for it, which is also really cool, because one of the things that sucks with these kind of games is when you do crash, if it halts your momentum or anything like that, but you really don't take much of a penalty as far as your speed or movement when you crash through stuff, even other cars. So it's essentially Crazy Taxi for Amazon delivery. You deliver an incredibly crazy amount of stuff that ranges from fireworks that are going off as you're delivering them, a gigantic fish that'll flop and knock your truck all around, or maybe you're just delivering a researcher around so he can take pictures of UFOs as they abduct cows. There's a ton of different things to do in the game. I think that's the one thing that keeps you going back, is wondering what your next job's gonna be. And if you do get bored of that, there's also a ton of collectibles to pick up and other semi-side quests to do. They're usually really silly and quick, but a lot of times they can really pay off by giving you different blueprints. Now, as I said before, Winston is really smart. And one of the things that he can do is he can upgrade his delivery truck. Now, this can range from anything with like nails coming out of your wheels so you can handle different opponents. And yes, there are bad guys that show up later on. There's a different delivery group, and other just people, cops try to chase you at some point. There's other things you got to worry about. But yeah, you can basically bring these gigantic nails out of your wheel and take them on Ben-Hur style. I think. I'm not sure if I use that reference right. Doesn't matter. But there's a lot of different upgrades that your truck can make. Now, most of them don't make such a huge difference. Something like the outside airbags, where you can put airbags on the outside of your truck, and so anything that tries to hit you will bounce off. Things like that are just kind of silly. Most of them don't make a big difference, but it is fun to just see how far you can take it and what all you can upgrade. And for the most part, the money and materials in this game are relatively easy to get. One thing I do want to be clear about with this game, though, is it isn't just arcade madness 24/7. In fact, this game does actually have some interestingly serious parts to it. And in fact, you develop relationships with other characters that are really well written and that have some really good backstories, and that also involve Winston himself and then the company you work for potentially going under or potentially succeeding, you developing a relationship with one of the owners of the company, and there's being some just interesting things that happen. I don't want to get too much into it, and namely because the story is told in many different ways. One, Winston always keeps a journal, there's a narrator who reads a lot of it, and then you do get some like 3D cutscenes that are done relatively well. And while they do take that multifaceted approach to telling you the story, if I'm being honest, there's not a lot of story there, so I don't want to ruin it for you. I will say too, one of the things that I have to note with this kind of game, I rarely had any sort of problems at all. And why I say with this sort of game is because there is chaos happening all around. And I almost never had any sort of lagging, the game crashing, losing my save. None of that happened. But I will say, my very first time I played, I did the mission with the fireworks shooting off, and the game was kind of lagging. After that, though, it never happened again, and I don't know if it was my system or if it was the game itself. There was other missions like that later on in the game, didn't happen. So again, I'm not really sure what it is, and it was like almost immediately when it dropped, so maybe they fixed it with the patch that I hadn't downloaded. I'm not really sure. But now another couple points of contention for a few people is the fact that it does have an isometric view with only 2 camera angles that are locked. So essentially you can't control the camera. And I'm not gonna lie, at first this did bug me, but once I got used to it, it really wasn't a problem. And that time was only maybe 30 minutes. It's all it took for me to get used to it, and I was completely fine with it. The only other like semi-issue is the controls, and the controls are fine, they're great, but it does take a second to get used to them, as when you're driving the car, the steering almost feels like you want to turn the opposite way. I don't know, you get used to it really quick and don't even think about it, but it was just something I wanted to mention. And again, this game is all about destruction and chaos and everything, so yeah, you don't have like tight turns or anything like that. But the main thing that I was trying to avoid this entire review was just saying the word fun. And the reason why is because I felt like I could have said that word so many times, and so I'm gonna say it now. That's the main point of this game, is it's incredibly fun. It's just one of those games that is perfect for like a 20-30 minute session that can easily go to like 2 or 3 hours. And all the while, you're just having fun playing the game. It does have an interesting story that keeps you engaged enough, but the gameplay is hilarious and just incredibly fun. Also, another point to note is it doesn't really punish you for failing or dying. It's almost really hard to lose in this game. Now, I will say that some people might have a problem with that. They might want something a little bit more difficult, but for me, I just don't think overly difficult and fun really match up, and I can see the direction that this game was going for. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on Deliver at All Costs. I really enjoyed it, especially for $29.99. I think it's well worth the cost, and like I said, I'm gonna keep talking about these AA games and these indie games because they're the funnest games, and they're not trying to completely screw us out of our money. But either way, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Have you played this game? Have you checked it out? Is it something you're just hearing about now? Anything and everything in that comment section is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.